it's planned. Today we are continuing Friendly Rivalry. Today it's going to be Chapter 2. Let's go. Chapter 2. Izuku couldn't believe it. She was offering to teach him, a quirkless kid, when she was a former supervillain, and a very good one at that, to throw knives. He'd have to take advantage of it while it lasted, and she inevitably tried to baby him because of his missing quirk. Sure, I'd love to, Izuku smiled, trying to inject as much enthusiasm as he could manage into his voice. She smiled indulgently, getting up from the chair, stretching. Izuku winced slightly, hearing her spine pop a dozen times. She laughed, seeing his wince. The price of being extremely active in my youth, I'm afraid. I'm practically more scar tissue than skin. Actually, I probably am, she laughed again, beckoning. Come on, the yard's out here. Izuku followed her out, watching curiously as she dropped by her room to collect 4 pouches, in addition to the 2 she already had on her legs. What are those for? Oh, they hold weapons. I'm not technically allowed to hide them in my clothing, so I have a dozen or more pouches of them in my room. And these are only the knives and shuriken. Hiki shrugged, and although Izuku couldn't see her face, he assumed she was grinning. The yard was a big area, a pool on one side, and a large open field to the other side. One side of the field had a row of targets set up, already riddled with holes. Hiki led him to stand around 4 feet away from the targets. We'll start close like this, and slowly get farther away, all right? Hiki handed him one of the pouches. Strap this onto your thigh. It'll be easier than putting these on the ground. Izuku took the pouch, figured out which way was the top, and tried to strap it onto his thigh, only for it to slide down his leg. Hiki chuckled, taking one of hers off. Forgot that it takes a bit to figure out how to put these on. Here, watch me and watch where I put the straps. Izuku watched carefully as she re-strapped it onto her leg, then tried to copy it on his own. It stayed on this time, and Izuku didn't move for fear it would slide down his leg again. Tighten the straps a bit, Hiki advised. It needs to hold up its own weight. And trust me when I say it's meant to last and to be worn in battle. Izuku stared at it with no little interest as he tried to tighten the straps, holding it in place. He could see the scratches and a few repaired places on it, although it looks almost new. You really can't get stuff like these days. Hiki sighed. The material that's made out of it is basically invincible. I swear, I've tried to have Kuro burn it, and it didn't work. I'm telling you, that stuff will last forever. Izuku stared at her. Huh? I can get Kuro to show you if you want, Hiki offered, pointing back towards the building. No, thank you, Izuku stuttered quickly. He didn't want her to destroy one of the pouches for his sake. She hummed doubtfully, but dropped it. Right, so open the pouch. Inside, there should be 5 throwing knives and 10 shuriken. Which do you want to start with? Izuku opened the pouch, eyeing the inside. Which is harder? Well, he was kind of asking what was more dangerous, since he might as well get that out of the way while he was still allowed to do it. Hiki hummed. That depends. Knives can do worse damage, but shuriken are more prone to small cuts. Izuku considered that. He'd have to be careful if he did shuriken, so he didn't get too many cuts, so his mom didn't fret over him. Although, it doesn't particularly matter either way, Hiki continued, pulling a small pair of gloves out of one of the pouches, since you'll be wearing these. They were my first pair as a kid and saved me from getting my fingers cut off quite a few times. Izuku took them when they were handed to him and surprised at the weight. If you don't mind me asking, why are they so heavy? She smirked. You know what my quirk is, right? You can enhance metal near you, Izuku replied instantly. It increases sharpness, durability, and hardness. That's correct. See, I didn't have great control over my quirk, so as a young kid, I narrowly avoided missing fingers because of these gloves. There's a metal weave in the fabric, so when I reinforce my knives and such, I'll reinforce the gloves as well. Izuku got it now. So you had the metal in the gloves protecting your fingers when you practiced? She gave him finger guns. Yep, I think they may fit you. You have kind of small hands. I have a few other sizes in here, I think. I needed those gloves up until high school. Izuku slid on the gloves, marveling at how maneuverable they were. Aside from the weight, he could barely tell they were on at all. They didn't hinder his fingers at all. Oh, good, they fit. Hiki sounded somewhat relieved. So, you keep those, and let's start with shuriken, shall we? Izuku's attempt at protesting the gift of the gloves was handily ignored. So, he pulled out the shuriken, being careful even with the gloves on. Hold them like this, Hiki said, pulling out one of her own and demonstrating for him. Izuku copied best he could, holding the shuriken like she was. She adjusted a few of his fingers, then demonstrated throwing one. It landed in the center of the target. Not too hard, but requires practice. Izuku threw his, and it fell to the ground, almost a foot from the target. Put a bit more force into it next time, Hiki encouraged. You'll find that too much force is often just enough. Unless you have a strength quirk I don't know about. You can't put too much force behind it, alright? Izuku nodded, grabbing another. She corrected his hands again, and he threw it, this time embedding it into the wood underneath the target. Good job. It took me ages to even hit the area around the pole, let alone the pole itself. She clapped him on the back. You did a good job, kid. Izuku immediately teared up and started crying. No one had told him that he'd done a good before, and he hadn't even hit the target. Hiki calmly pulled out tissues, offering them to him, and patiently waited for him to calm down, which only made him cry harder, because she was so nice, and he knew he was quirkless and everything. When his tears finally stopped, Hiki had run out of tissues. I'll have to carry more around, she joked, elbowing him lightly. Oh, no, I can carry my own. I wouldn't want to bother you, Izuku said quickly, waving his arms in front of him. Nah, you're good, kid. At least you aren't a disaster crier like Mukusi is, which is why I have tissues at all. Just means I have to carry twice as many, and I have to have something hidden in my pockets after all. She patted his shoulder and gestured to the pouch. Come on, let's try again. You have another... She glanced at the sun. Hour, looks like. Let's do shuriken for another 20 minutes, then move on, Izuku nodded quickly, determined to do his best. He wanted to be a hero, right? So, Hiki said, what do you want to do when you grow up? Izuku froze, barely registering that his shuriken landed in the outer ring. Nothing important. She raised an eyebrow. Is that so? And here, I could have sworn you wanted to go into a profession where being able to use sharp and pointy things is useful. Izuku flushed, looking away. I want to be a hero, he mumbled out quickly. A good profession, she hummed. If a dangerous one, I should know. I went up against many heroes in my time. Izuku nodded quickly, happy to latch onto it. Like your fight with Thundering Whisper. She glanced at him in surprise. Maybe I should stop being so surprised when he spout on information no one knows anymore. He'll give me more wrinkles than I already have. She ruffled his hair, and Izuku flinched in surprise. So, he said quick to change the subject. Can you sense what things you've used your quirk on? He hummed. It's kind of like recognizing someone I've met twice before. A vague recognition of I've used that object, but no real connection. I can't sense where the objects are or anything. I can cancel them at any time, however. So can you cancel the affected metals in one area? Izuku wondered, restraining himself from going on a muttered rant. Well, it has to be within my vision ring, he admitted, or I can't cancel the effect properly. Izuku nodded, excitedly, then fumbled with a shuriken he pulled out of the pouch. And it fell, but didn't cut any of his fingers because of the gloves. And that is why you're wearing gloves, Hiki said, grinning. Izuku sheepishly picked up the now somewhat dirty shuriken. Sorry. She eyed him for a minute, then gestured to his pouch. It's no issue. Let's do the knives now. Looks like you have a bit of practicing to do with the shuriken. But I have no doubt you'll be fine to practice on your own for a while. Just try and pick a target that won't walk away, alright? She grinned playfully, pulling out one of the knives. Izuku shook his head frantically. I wouldn't. She sighed. I was joking, Izuku. Oh, he said sheepishly.